Hey there, hope all of you are doing good. This is a small video session wherein I will be telling you important topics in the central nervous system in physiology for first year MBBS exams. So lately I have been receiving a lot of queries regarding the topics which they are supposed to read in the central nervous system. As I can understand that central nervous system is a very vast area and it forms bulk of questions in the second paper of physiology for first year MBBS students. So this is not meant for those people who have already finished reading central nervous system. This is meant for those people who are finding it difficult as to what to read from the central nervous system for the first year MBBS exams, and also for those who have not yet read anything. So herein I will be giving you a list of topics. Again, a disclaimer, the questions need not be coming from these areas, but these are the important areas. And again in this, like I have 4 slides. The first 2 slides topics which I will be putting on the first 2 slides, they are extremely important. Do not go for the exam without reading those topics. So if you are starting to read CNS, read those topics first, and then later on go to the topics which have been put on the 3rd and the 4th slide, and even don't skip those topics if you want to score good in the second paper. Okay, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, do hit the subscribe button. So let's just start with the first topic, as it is synapse. So everything you will have to know regarding the synapse, a very important topic. The structure of the synapse, the transmission which is occurring at the level of the synapse, and all the properties of the synapse. Please read this topic completely. Next one is the spinal cord, and here we are not much concerned with the anatomy of the spinal cord, but it will always get easy if you know the anatomy of the spinal cord, the section of the spinal cord. Then read the tracts. In the tracts we are having the descending tracts and the ascending tracts, and in the descending tracts we have both pyramidal tracts as well as the extrapyramidal tracts. Both are important, but concentrate more on the pyramidal tracts. Know what are the extrapyramidal tracts and what is the function of those extrapyramidal tracts. Know in detail regarding the pyramidal tract, okay, or also called as the corticospinal tract. Entire thing, its origin, its course, its function, and what is happening if at all there is the lesion. The lesion of the pyramidal tract is what is also called as the upper motor neuron lesion. So know completely regarding these things, okay. And also know regarding the ascending tracts. You should be able to name almost all the ascending tracts, and you should be able to describe the spinothalamic tract and its function, means from where it is arising, what is its course, and where it is terminating, and what are the sensations that it is carrying. Similar with the dorsal column, they will ask you trace the spinothalamic tract or trace the dorsal column and tell what sensations is it carrying. So next we have the transection of the spinal cord. This is an applied aspect. Herein they can ask you what is going to happen if there is a complete transection, nothing but the spinal shock. And they can very important and very favorite question for the examiners is hemitransection of the spinal cord, which is nothing but Brown-Sequard syndrome. Okay, so when you understand the tracts, how they are arranged and how they are moving up and down in the spinal cord, then it becomes very easy to understand the hemitransection as well as the complete transection of the spinal cord. Okay, that is nothing but Brown-Sequard. Next, they will definitely, this is also a very important question, not only physiologically but also clinically. You have to know the differences between the upper motor neuron lesion and the lower motor neuron lesion. Almost all books have given it in a tabular form, and even if it is asked in the exam, make sure to write it in a tabular form. Next, they can ask you a clinically oriented question giving you a classical case of hemiplegia with the lesion which is occurring at the internal capsule. So this will be an upper motor neuron lesion with spastic paralysis, Babinski sign positive and all that. So they will ask you to identify which tract is lesion. So it is the pyramidal or the corticospinal tract lesion suggestive of UMN. Then they might ask you again to trace the pyramidal tract. They might ask you the differences between upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron lesion, and name few extrapyramidal tracts and write their functions. This could be your long essay also. Very important, I cannot stress the importance of this topic, and that is the basal ganglia, A to Z of basal ganglia along with the clinical features of the Parkinson's disease. Okay, they will ask you a clinically oriented question giving you the clinical features of Parkinson's disease, then they will ask you to identify which tract or which area is lesioned. To be more specific, you will have to write not just the basal ganglia, but it's the nigrostriatal dopaminergic fibers which are degenerated. Okay, A to Z of basal ganglia. Similarly, A to Z of cerebellum, including few times they have also asked cerebellar function tests. Cerebellar function tests. Okay, we do it in our clinical physiology lab. Write it in the form of, write it in the theory also, what tests are done in the upper limb and what tests are done in the lower limb. So these are the very important topics which you should not miss. Okay, next important topic which usually the students find difficult is muscle spindle. Muscle spindle or the intrafusal muscle fibers and their importance. It could be asked in the form of even stretch reflex or the monosynaptic reflex. So you should know everything regarding the muscle spindle, regarding its innervation, the motor innervation, the sensory innervation, and what does it do, what is its function, in which reflex it is important. Coming to the second slide, of course, thalamus, the nuclei you have to know, the connections you have to know, and the functions, and also sometimes they can ask you the applied aspect which is called as the thalamic syndrome. Okay, thalamic syndrome. Hypothalamus, we need not understand the connections in physiology. You will have to know the nuclei, what are all the nuclei, how they are grouped into anterior, posterior and the lateral group. And very important aspect is the functions of the hypothalamus. There are around 8 to 9 functions of the hypothalamus. Each one of that can be asked as a short note, or hypothalamus as such they can ask you to describe the functions of hypothalamus in the form of a long essay. Okay, so again, thalamus, hypothalamus, very important, very important. Again, that is the pain pathway. Herein you will have to know the different types of pain, most importantly the slow pain and the fast pain, and the pathways of the slow pain, pathways of the fast pain, the fibers which are carrying the slow pain and the fast pain pathway. Then you will also have to know the endogenous analgesic system, and the most important, there is this theory which is called as the gate control theory. Okay, so many number of times this question is been asked, endogenous analgesic system and the gate control theory. Again important, referred pain, so many number of times this is asked. What is referred pain, what do you understand or how do you define referred pain, and what are all the different theories which explain the referred pain. Okay, remember this thing. Neurotransmitters, they can just ask you to enumerate the neurotransmitters. They can sometimes ask you to enumerate only the excitatory neurotransmitters or the inhibitory neurotransmitters. So it is always good to know few excitatory and few inhibitory neurotransmitters. Next is the sleep. Okay, it was not expected, but in the last exams under KNR University in Telangana, they have asked narcolepsy as a long essay. Okay, and then they have asked regarding the sleep. So in the sleep, need not go into the much details, but you will have to know what are the different types of sleeps, what are the different EEG waves which are seen in these different types of sleeps, and what is little bit, if you know, that's very good, regarding the mechanism of sleep. So this is an added thing which you can know, and also insomnia, hypersomnia and narcolepsy. Okay, just go through this topic. It's an easy topic and a scoring topic. Okay, these were the 2 slides. Now coming to the third slide, herein you will have to know CSF, how it is formed, how it is circulated, and what are its function. Again, blood-brain barrier, this is also repeatedly asked short answer or a short note. What structures form the blood-brain barrier and what is its significance, and what are the structures which are present outside the blood-brain barrier, the so-called circumventricular organs also sometimes they will ask you. So know this topic properly. Next is the speech. Herein we have to know not just the areas for both the spoken speech and the written speech, also know the mechanism behind the spoken speech and the written speech. Not only that, we are also supposed to know aphasias. Okay, there are different types of aphasias like motor aphasia, is there sensory aphasia, or also called as Broca's aphasia, or also called as the Wernicke's aphasia. Okay, and we also have a global aphasia. So know why this occurs and what are the clinical features in aphasias. Then next topic is the functional areas of the cerebral hemisphere. These are nothing but the Broodmann's areas. There are so many areas, area 21, 22, 41, 42, 3, 4, so many are there. You will have to know where these areas are located and what is the function of those areas. Like we have areas for visual cortex, we have areas for auditory cortex, we have area for motor cortex, somatosensory cortex, the frontal eye field. So know where these areas are located in the cerebral hemisphere, in which lobe they are located, and what is their function. So sometimes they have asked you the short note Broodmann areas of the cerebral hemisphere. So you have to draw the diagram, write those areas, and then explain about each areas little bit. Okay. Then next comes a topic which is called as learning and memory. Don't go into the more details of this, just go through superficially regarding learning and memory. So in the memory, they can ask you the different types, or how do you classify memory, and they can just ask you the mechanism of memory, as to how the memory from a short-term memory is getting converted into long-term memory. There are some mechanisms which you would have studied in synapse itself, like the long-term tetanization and the long-term potentiation, processes like synaptic plasticity and all that. And of course in the learning, again you will have to know the different types of learning, and the most important thing in the learning that they can ask you is this Pavlov's dog experiment, which is concerned with conditioned and the unconditioned reflex. So what is the meaning of conditioned reflex, what is the meaning of the unconditioned reflex, and how it was proved by Pavlov's dog experiment. Okay, this is important. Coming to the last slide, in the limbic system, the most important thing that you are supposed to learn is Pepe's circuit. Next is go through this topic. Sometimes they will ask you, do not leave this topic completely. How is it that the vestibular apparatus is helping in maintenance of the posture? Again important. So it is similar to that of hearing mechanisms, but little different. Okay, the decelerations and all those, go through that. Next is what is called as these two topics, the decerebrate rigidity and decorticate rigidity. What is the reason behind decerebrate, what is the reason behind decorticate, and how the posture of the animal will be when there is decerebrate and decorticate rigidity. Okay, fine. And then these two laws, repeatedly asked these two, one is called as the Bell-Megendie law, another one is called as the law of projection, or sometimes they will ask you in the form of a phantom limb. These may be asked as a 3 marks questions. I think these are there in the chapter of receptors. Okay, and at last, that's what I was supposed to tell, the receptors. Different types of receptors are there. How are they classified? What are the different types of receptors? Like sometimes they can just ask you Pacinian corpuscle, draw and label the diagram and tell its function. So you should be able to draw free nerve endings, Pacinian corpuscle, all the different types of receptors, and what are their functions. What is it that they are, what sensation is it that they are sensing? So these are the some of the topics, and if at all I have not covered any topic in these slides, please comment below in the comment section and let me know, and I will tell you whether the topic is important or not. Hope so this video will be helpful for you in learning CNS and performing better in your examinations. Thank you. Do hit the subscribe button, like and share this video. Thanks a lot.